Let's move on now to the Daily Telegraph, where some lovely photos on the front tomorrow, even though the headline isn't great. Water torture, heroic Tinny army roars to the rescue as deadly deluge is set to head south. There's a beautiful shot of locals navigating the floodwaters up there in northern New South Wales as that storm is set to hit Sydney. Let's move on also to the Sydney Morning Herald, where specialist rescue teams have been sent to Lismore this evening, and they've been deployed up there to rescue and recover victims of one of the nation's worst flood disasters, as residents of the nearby coastal community of Ballina were ordered to evacuate. Lismore Mayor Steve Craig said he expected more deaths following the discovery of 2 fatalities in Lismore yesterday as the floodwater recedes slowly from its 14.37 metre peak. Jem, I don't know about you, but today when the news broke of that 80-year-old woman who was found, unfortunately, had passed away in the floodwaters, my heart just broke, because you can't even imagine how terrified that poor darling must have been. This is just the human face of the horror that these people are experiencing.
Look, this is the worst of the worst. I mean, we had bushfires at the end of 2019 into 2020. One year blends into another, but that's what I seem to remember it being.
Yeah.
But fires and floods, I mean, the worst of Australia's, natural inclination of extremes of weather. This has been terrifying to watch play out. Like 14+ metre peak, that's just... Yeah. It's just extraordinary. I struggle to actually mentally put that into perspective as I'm sitting here and watching these pictures unfold. I do dread to think what these receding waters will reveal. But conversely, as we saw on the front page of the telly just now, these situations bring out the best in Australians. They bring out the best of our mateship and our, heroism, for want of a better word. Going and seeing what we can do on the ground. What can I do? Asking that question, what can I do? And then going and doing it, whether it's for those of us over here, digging into our pockets, sending money, donating money, those on the ground over there. I saw something on social media. Please excuse me, I'm not going to get the name right, but it's the Seek organisation that goes around and provides food. And they were hot-tailing it up to northern New South Wales. And in the tweet said, look, we're on our way. We're going to feed people. If anyone knows where there's a commercial kitchen that we can rent out so we can feed people for free, let us know. I love that. I love seeing that part of Australia and Australia's community rise in times like this amidst the devastation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the CWA of New South Wales deserves a massive shout out for all of the great work that they're doing and continue to do even when there is no natural disaster. Also, yesterday, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Sydney braces for a savage storm cell. Fears of major flooding on Sydney's northwestern fringes were growing last night as forecasters escalated weather warnings before torrential rainfall expected from a major east coast low threatening the city. It's going to get pretty scary, I think, in the older Harbour City and Emerald City tomorrow. But now on to another yarn that we've already touched on. $1 billion a week expected in a pre-budget spendathon. We've been touching on pre-budget little tips and tricks that Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has been dropping to a number of papers for the past couple of weeks. And a spendathon of more than $1 billion a week is expected in the run-up to the budget, even before Prime Minister Scott Morrison pulls the trigger for the May election. What do you think about this, Jem? Do you think it's on, and it's on will be an absolute sugar hit for the pre-budget announcements and then carry us well into election mode, surely?
It's been on for weeks, Clarkie. It's been on for weeks. We are in the champagne. It is a sham of a campaign already. And look, I love Josh Frydenberg as a treasurer. I think he's tremendous. I think he's, everybody's saying the same thing. He's a future Prime Minister. But I do think we're spending too much money, as you said. The sugar hit. If we're talking about, I'd love to see structural reform. I'd love to see tax reform. I'd love to see any kind of reform. It's been, we haven't had a reforming Prime Minister since Howard. So, we're due.
Yeah.
This sort of, everybody gets a car, Oprah-style campaigning is not new. All sides of politics do it.
Yeah.
It's just that the coalition is the one with the keys to the bank. Do we have keys to a bank? You know what I mean.
Yeah,
They're the ones who are writing checks. That's how old I am. I'm referencing a checkbook.